So here we have it, the man of the hour. He played in the NFL for 13 years. He's a two-time Pro Bowl, and also he's on the Jets' second all-time with receiving yards. And there's a reason why he's in the New York Jets Ring of Honor. Please welcome Wesley, the California Kid, Walker in the house. How are you, baby?
How are you, Eddie? I liked your intros. I had a chance to really see a couple of your shows, and the intros are always good. And I know Pepper Johnson said that was the one hell of an intro you gave him. So that makes you feel good.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that. I'm glad that you did watch a little of my stuff. You know, Wesley, when I was a kid, we used to play two-hand touch on the streets in Brooklyn, right?
Yep.
And every time a quarterback will throw a pass to me, he'll go, Wesley Walker. Then at that time, I was like, well, who's Wesley Walker? Because I'm little. I'm playing with bigger kids, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, well, who's Wesley Walker? He's like, what? Tonight's a Monday night game. Watch the game with me. And that's what I remember. And I was like, oh, that's the guy. Wow, this guy's no joke. So that's how I was introduced to you.
Well, that's always flattering, and I always tell people, it's just hard for me. Like when I go to the Jet games, even now, it's been 35 years since I
Mm-hmm.
played, and maybe longer than that. And the fans I've always respected, and they give you all these accolades. I never could imagine somebody when they're a little kid, trying to be number 85, Wesley Walker. And I have kids, I have parents, and growing up and telling me those things. And I'm just like a regular guy, and I never looked at myself as like a celebrity or this football player or this Jet guy. And a lot of people look at me that way, but I'm no different than you. And it's flattering at the same time. And when I got inducted in the Ring of Honor with Mark Gastineau, there's a poster they did, and I played this game because the fan support was so good, and I was there this weekend. Actually, the last three games, I went out to New York for a little vacation. Although it wasn't a vacation, we were running around busy, seeing friends, family, and attending to the Jets games and making an appearance. But the fans have always been really good to me. But it's always flattering to hear that somebody followed you since they were a little kid. Makes me feel really old, and because I'm 68 now, and I don't even know where the time went. And I'm just so happy to have the career that I did have. It always could be better, and they play a lot more games now. And I just wish that I would have gotten the ball a lot more. I just didn't get some of the opportunities, and yeah, a lot of people don't know as a receiver, I was very frustrated being a Jets because I didn't get the ball thrown to me that often. So when I did get it thrown, I had to do something with it. But it was very frustrating. And nowadays, guys are, especially with the amount of games that they're playing, if you can't get 1,000 yards in 17 games, then there's something really wrong, or they're just not giving you the opportunities. And that's where I felt a little sorry this year for Garrett Wilson, who's phenomenal. Who I had people calling me, it busted my record, which I didn't even know. The first 2 years being a Jet, in receiving yards. But like I said, he'll get plenty of opportunities that I didn't get, and so those records are made to be broken. But I'm glad to be here with you, and glad that you got introduced to you by someone that was close to me as a player, and that's always flattering.
Well, it's an honor. And thank you so much for being
It's
here.
my
So,
honor. Believe me, it's
oh,
my honor.
wow. Thank you. Thank you. So let me ask you this. Let's turn back the clock, right? Obviously, you love this guy, Willie Mays, right?
Loved him.
Okay. Did you want to be a baseball player first? What
I
was it
did.
like you
This
growing up?
this is
Like, what was it
this is
like
the
growing up?
ironic part. I played baseball all the way up, just growing up, all the little leagues and stuff, until I got to high school. And the only reason I didn't play is when my dad wanted me to run track because he felt like track is more of an individual sport, and he was right about that. The other sports are team sports, and you can be controlled. Like I didn't get the ball as a New York Jet as often as I wanted to. Probably in college too, and the way I really wanted to. Unless somebody really wants to do that with you, if they see something and they want to really pump you with the ball, so to speak. Track was more of an individual sport, and you can't be controlled. So coaches control you. Sometimes you don't get the opportunity. So he wanted me to have that. So I stopped playing baseball, and that's the only reason. And it's funny Willie Mays. Oh man, I can. There's a picture of me that I had in a giant uniform as a little kid. I don't even know how I was, probably 6, 7, 8, and I loved Willie Mays. But then I was never the type to approach people. I remember seeing him when I was in college at Berkeley, walking, and I didn't want to go up to him. And then a couple of times I had a chance to meet him, and he wasn't the nicest with fans. And a lot of people will come up to you getting autographs. You don't know if they're hawking the autographs. And I had him come over to make sure a guy who was a friend of mine, and he could be a pain. He wanted to make sure the autograph was for me. And I've seen him in other areas where I remember we played in a softball game for Ed Kranepool and him, and it was for a charity. And one of my teammates wanted his autographs, and he wouldn't do it. And so when he found out, when Ed Kramer, you got to sign these guys' autograph. We're here just like you, playing, in the charity thing, and we're former athletes. And then he wanted to sign the autograph after that, but my teammate Bobby Jackson didn't want that. But I loved Willie Mays, and one of the biggest things I remember, a lot of people didn't know that I was blind. So I was playing catch when I was a youngster, and my eye used to drift off, and my dad ended up taking me to the doctor to find out I had this cataract on the inside and I was legally blind in my left eye. And I never did think anything of it. But my mom was definitely afraid of me playing because I got hit in the eye one time. And I never even thought about it. If something happened to my good eye, I'd be totally blind and I don't know where I would be. And I work with a family right now. The parents are blind. We take care of the two daughters, but I cannot imagine being blind, and certainly I wouldn't be able to play. But God willing, He gave me one eye, and I was able to do my thing. But I loved baseball.
You know, Wesley, I was visualizing this earlier. I said to myself, if I catch the ball this way, my left, okay, and that eye, and I put my hand over it, and I'm saying to myself, whoa, you literally have to turn all the way to see the football coming at you, right?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And this is something as a receiver you work on in practice, and people always wonder. I've had ophthalmologists, different eye doctors I've gone through over the years, and I have no depth perception. They're just trying to figure this out themselves. And hey, it's the good Lord up there, and my God is giving me the ability. And the only thing I can say is that. I was born that way, so I made the adjustments. And also, for some reason, I have, I'm aware of objects on the side, like peripherally, but I can't see out of the eye. It's the weirdest thing. But as a receiver, you work on the little things. And I've had certain coaches that were technicians, and you kind of know yourself what you have to do, and you have to put yourself in positions. And there were times where, hey, those are catches. I had to really turn or follow the ball, but it's a concentration thing. Whether you have one eye or two, you still have to focus. And so I was able to do that. And there was times, I'll be honest with you, Eddie, there was times I made some catches myself, and I said, I didn't do this by myself. It's got to be God up there helping me. And I remember one of my teammates, Jerome Barkham, I made this one catch, went over one of the shoulders, and I barely made it on the fingertips. And he said, bro, you can see out of that. I know you're bullshitting me right now. You know what I mean? But I thank God I've had the opportunity. I've tried to use it to my advantage, and the Jets never made a big deal about it. I never made a big deal. The Jets didn't even know I was blind until I came in for mini camp, and they were concerned about my knee because I had a very serious knee injury my senior year. I was supposed to be this number one draft choice. And I remember the Mike Hollenbeck, the general manager at the time, said I was going to be their number one draft choice until I hurt my knee. And so that really bothered me. I never thought about getting injured and having major surgery. But when I got to the Jets to read the eye chart, nobody's ever really checked it. And I remember BSing them. I said, I see the big E, but I really don't see it. That stands out so you can remember the big E. But I have like this, the kids that I take care of, they have to get these surgeries on their eyes. Their parents are blind, and she couldn't even see the big letter on the chart. So getting back to being the athlete, the only thing I can say, I was aware of surroundings, but you work at focusing, at get your head around. And my right eye is probably had 2015 in my good eye, but it was just a focusing. You just put your body in certain positions, and I was always used to it, and I worked my ass off to get to where I had the ability to catch the ball, and by the grace of God, I was able to do what I did. Unfortunately for me, injuries was a big factor in my career, and I'd like to think that I would have doubled my numbers if I'd have been able to play the games that I missed. But I am very thankful, and I'm hoping that I can encourage others who've had disabilities or handicaps that if you're willing to put the time in, the work ethic, there's just so many things you can do. And I was always inspired by my parents to be able to do that through my education and also my abilities to work on things that you were weak at. And that's one of the things I did. Like I'm left-handed, right? And 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 I have the
Me too.
ability to catch the ball on my right side for some reason. It was comfortable, and the left side was very weak. But I would work on those the weak side so they come easy. And I probably caught more balls on my weaker side than my good side, but you have to work on it. And that separated me from a lot of people. I had this kid come in, Johnny Lamb Jones, the best talent I ever had, I have ever seen. And he would show up for practice a couple of weeks, and then like off season workout, and then you wouldn't see him for 6 months, and he didn't work at it, but he had all this ability. I also had a coach that had confidence in me also, who worked with me and showed me certain things and put me at another level. And if Lamb Jones, I'm just using this as an example with athletes, if you don't take it upon yourself to put the time in to work at something that you're really good at, it's not going to happen. And then in this sport, you got to deal with injuries, and it's what have you done for me lately? And if you drop balls and you hadn't worked on things, you're out the door. And that's kind of what happened with him. But you see talent. I used to tell him, if I was your coach, you would have made me a superstar, because I would have brought your butt in and worked with it till I got what I needed out of you, because I know he had this ability. A lot of guys, even today, probably don't have the coaching. A lot of people don't know, even on a pro level, you don't get the coaching or people with the experience that you really need. You'll have even coaches coaching like a guy like Freeman McNeil, and there's never even played the position before. So that kind of happens too. And we had a coordinator, Richie Kotite. He had the title of coordinator, but he never called the play. Joe Walton did everything. So the point I'm making is that if you do not have a coach that can take your abilities or see and to fit you in what you do best by your abilities, and also teach you things to make you better, and that's what coaching is all about, it will never happen. But a lot of it's within yourself to be able to do that. And I thank God I was just wanted to work my butt off, and I wanted to be the best that I could be.
So in Carson High School, that's where you went to, right? In Torrance.
Loved every bit of it. Yep.
Okay, so I realized that there's 19 players that got drafted from Carson High School traditionally, according to the NFL reference.
Yes.
Only one guy played over 10 years. That's you. That's how hard it
Yep.
is.
Yeah, it's very hard. I'm lucky. They said the average lifespan is probably about maybe 4 to 5 years, and I luckily played 13. I tell people I probably played half that if you look at the games that I missed. But I'm very thankful, and they didn't have the movement with free agency, which I missed. I mean, these guys, the money's huge. Uh, in training camp, you're in a hotel. Uh, the complex, they have like 3 or 4 different fields, grass and turf, a bubble for inside. I mean, just the weight rooms, just the things that you are able to do. Diet, for instance. I never even drank water until I met my wife now, 17 years. And that is a travesty. So there are things that I would do differently, but I wish I would have came at a different time. I used to tease my mom about that, but I'm very thankful that I have the success that I did have and the things that have happened. And I'm sure the guys previously, before my time, who are working jobs during the off season and they didn't get the benefits some of the players are getting now. And I would like to hope, or at least think, that the guys that are playing now, they would appreciate the guys who built that for them now. And I'm not sure that they really do, because there's a lot of guys that have suffered, and they're having problems health wise, and their benefits are getting a little bit better, but there's so much more that the current players have now because of guys previously playing.
Wesley, were you the man in high school? Were you the guy? Was everybody looking at, oh shit, Carson's here. There's a receiver named Wesley Walker. Were you that guy?
Yes, and I'll tell you what made me the 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 guy. And I was an All American. I had a guy by the name of Gene Vonagel, and that's what I'm talking about coaching. There's only been two coaches that I said that I've had, counting a pro career, and that's somebody that would take me and nurture me, or they see something in you to make you better. And I've had good coaches, technicians, in my 13-year career. But I'm talking about somebody that puts you in a position to make you better or see something in you. And I had this guy, Gene Vonagel, in high school. And when I got to the Jets, I had a guy by the name of Dan Henning who put me at a level that you couldn't even imagine. I could just run by flat out, guys, but I learned how to run routes. I learned the game. And if you looked at most of my touchdowns, I'm leaving guys, and it just was so easy for me. And that's what you don't see in a lot of this game. And the Jets really haven't had a deep threat since I left. Now they have Garrett Wilson, but that's a long time to go out with a real main receiver that can go get it. And the Jets labeled me as like this deep threat, but I had the ability to be in a slot or outside, inside, or catch short passes. But again, you're not. I should say, if you don't have a coach that can see all of that, they limit you. They put a label on you, and that's what happened to me. But getting back to the coaching, Gene Vogel, my high school coach, saw something in me, and I'll never forget that. I went out. I didn't play until I got to high school. I went out to try out for a team in jeans and some cleats that my dad bought for me, and he saw something in me, and he had me come out. I never lost a game in high school. And it's funny that you mentioned that now, Carson. I just had one of my teammates from Carson because I
You
got
see the
inducted to
picture? You
all.
see the picture, Wesley? See that picture I put up?
Which one?
You
Which
see
one? I didn't.
Carson?
The high school, yeah. And it's funny you have that because I just drove
Whoa.
by there when I was in LA recently, and it's all changed and
Whoa,
different.
wait, wait.
But my
Wesley, say that
teammate
again. Wesley, say that again. I got interrupted by this series.
Yeah,
Say that again.
I drove there maybe last year to look at the high school, and it's all changed. But I remember seeing the Carson right outside there, that is some of my best memories I ever had. I never lost a game. But Gene Vonagel, and he passed away, bless his heart. And I got inducted to the Hall of Fame for Carson High School just 2 years ago. He had passed away, and I saw him at my 20th reunion, and we sat down. But he was like a father to me. But I would be playing basketball, and he would sit there with my father and say, look at him go dunk the ball. I see him going after footballs or whatever. And even my senior year, he was thinking about moving me to quarterback just to help the team because we didn't have a quarterback, and we ended up getting a quarterback. But we had some stellar years, and there was some people previously because the year before, it either was my junior or sophomore year where the seniors thought we wouldn't win a championship when they left, and we did. And I just got a call from my friend Sal Fela, who I grew up playing baseball with. His dad even coached me in baseball, and they are going to have like a little reunion, but at the Hall of Fame this year. They want to honor the 71 and 72 championship team, so they're trying to get all the players that are still alive, I guess, too. That's another thing because as I get older, I'm thinking about I don't really know how much time I got. I was telling my little granddaughter, man, if I make it to 80, that's only 12 years. I'm not going to have much time with you, but it's just a reality getting older. This guy, Andre Barr just passed away. I love movies, actor, and he's only 61, but I'm seeing guys, a couple of my teammates even last year, Marvin Powell, who I got drafted with, and then we had a guy, center Jim Sweeney. They both had heart attacks during the same week last year. So I don't know how much time I have, but to get back to the coaching thing, it is so nice when you have coaches who see something in you, can take your talent and see what you have, and whether it's football, baseball, and put you in positions with your talent to make you better. And like I said, including my pro career, all my pro career, I had two coaches, my high school coach and Dan Henney, who taught me something to make me better as an athlete. And that's what coaches are supposed to do. And you have coaches on a pro level, and they have problems. They can't put offenses together because they're not utilizing the people that they have and putting them in positions. And a lot of that, I think, is like with the Jets that's happened with them now. But I'm thankful that I had those two people in my life who really believed in me. And that's another thing, because I've had coaches who stereotype you. I remember talking to Joe Walton. You should get to know the players. Don't base your decisions off what a trainer or somebody says about you in the front office or whatever. Get to know the person. And a lot of coaches, they don't do that. They may somebody may stereotype you in the organization and think a certain way about you until you really meet the person and really get to know that person. And I've had that problem with me. Walt Michaels, I always thought was really gruff, wasn't that bright. But then when I sat and talked to him when he was retired, he was very bright and smart. And I like told him, why couldn't you be like this as a head coach? You have to separate. And some coaches don't think you can be friends. And I'm not saying you have to be friends, but you have to have some kind of camaraderie where you want to play for this guy. And I don't know why you can't mesh that together. And everybody has their unique styles of coaching. And I remember Belichick and the success that he had, and he was pretty hardcore. And there are some coaches think they have to berate you to get things out of you to make you angry, and that's not my style. And I don't think I'd be too receptive. I'm just glad I had people who really believed in me. But I like to think that my work ethic, I wouldn't be making mistakes, so a coach is not going to yell at me because I take care of my job. You know.
But Wesley, give me an example. Let's say I'm Wesley Walker, and you're
hmm
my coach. What would you tell me? Say, hey Eddie, listen, this is what I love about you. How would you coach me if I have your ability?
Well, number one, as a coach, as your friend, I got you're playing this game, especially on a pro level. You better make sure you have your stuff together with injuries, education wise, and you kind of preparing yourself for if this doesn't happen, because in this world, injuries are a big factor. But at the same time, I have to get to know you. I have to know what your abilities are, and it takes study. I wouldn't know what you could do on the field unless I studied film to see what your strengths, what your weaknesses are, and then you try to harness that. But you get to know that by watching practice, by watching a work ethic. And if I saw things that weren't up to par, what you need to do, then I would try to do that in a positive way, but not in a negative way.
Right,
There
right.
are certain coaches that will take you where they want to see you every time you come in. And I had coaches where I want to go the other way because you're always on me. I'm going to work out, but I don't need somebody hovering over me all the time. But you try to make it where the guys want to come get the help too.
Right.
But I'd have to know what your abilities are, and I'd have to study that first. And I want to get to know you as the person yourself, and then you can develop a relationship and to try to get the most that I could out of you. Now, and I understand there's a time where you maybe can't be so close and it affects your decisions. But me as a coach, I want to tell it like it is. If you're screwing up and I don't like something, or this is what you need to do to get better, I'm going to let you have it and let you know about it. But again, it takes time and study and preparedness to get that. Coaches
Right.
and players fight.
Exactly. And now USC is 20 minutes away from you. Why did you pick University of California? And how many colleges coaches came to your home telling your parents, he should be coming to my college?
Well, the thing is, and back now with these portals and you can make money in college, we didn't have that. And God, the school I ended up going to was even on probation, and you'd heard about guys getting cars and money and all
Mhm.
that. And I kind of regretted not going to UCLA because they probably would have given my dad a job who was having some problems, with work after he got out of the service. And he went to Vietnam. He just wasn't the same person. And they said, "We'll get your dad a job." But what happened with me? I was very instilled by my parents, and they were my role models about my education. So that was first and foremost. And I try to tell kids that. And I just told a kid the other day, he was asking me, what would I do? And I said, first and foremost, get your education. I was very fortunate. I was a great student, um, and I had great athletic ability. So being an athlete, and when it comes to recruiting, people look at you. But grades are a big factor. You limit yourself if you're not. I could have went to any major college that I wanted to go to. I got tired of even taking trips, and I actually told USC I was coming. And at the time, they had Lynn Swan, and they just made a rule you could freshmen could play varsity because they used to you'd have to play freshman ball, but they just made this rule, and I'm not that I was filled with myself, but I was confident. I want to start for a team and get the opportunity. But at that time, Lynn Swan had recruited me, and John McKay was the head coach, but his son was there, and I felt like I'm not going to get a fair shot there. UCLA wanted me, and I actually told them I was coming. They wanted me as a running back. I forgot the two guys they had. They ran the wishbone, and I forgot the names because it's so long ago. And one guy they're going to put it to fullback, and they wanted me to be one of the halfbacks. And I actually told them I was coming. And and I went to Colorado, Nebraska, Arizona State, just all these, just taking trips, and I really hadn't made up my mind. And Cal, I'd never even heard of them, and but they had, I forgot what they had lied. My parents didn't feel like they were being upfront, and so I kind of blew them off. And there was a guy who was my coach, and he ended up coaching at Oregon and some places, and as a coordinator. His name was Ron Hudson, a great recruiter. He was the receivers coach, and he came to my track practice, and he made this big, thick scrapbook, all my accolades, playing football, running track, and it was a nice thing. And I'm going through it. He begged me because I missed the. They had this blue chip where they had all the blue chipper athletes they wanted to recruit at the same time, and I didn't make that. I turned them down. So he came to try to persuade me to just take a visit, and he brought the scrapbook, which I was impressed with. So I said, okay, I'll come up on the trip. So I had Vince Ferragamo, who got drafted by the Rams. We were rivals. He went to Banning. He was like a rival. He was at Cal his first year. He ended up leaving and going to Nebraska, but he recruited me along with Herman Edwards and this
Wow.
guy Harold Fike, who was the other corner on the side. So I recruited, and I remember I went up there and met some girls, but I fell in love with the campus, with the fact of the education. And I was like a black hippie growing up. So I thought I was going to be the next Jimi Hendrix. So this kind of like fit my whole
You kind of look like
being.
him right now with the hat on, but go ahead.
Yeah, I loved it. And I know my parents were a little bit disappointed. When I look back on it, when my father had some problems after he got out of service, I remember me investing his life savings and lost it with this company and this guy. I think he wanted to kill this guy, but like I said, he drank, and he was an alcoholic, but a great father. My parents were my role models, and my dad actually came up to Cal to make sure I didn't play hurt, and he never saw me play in college or the pros. But that's how much he cared about me. He just wanted me to do the right thing. But when I made that decision, they didn't stop me, and I ended up going there. And I loved Northern California. And it's funny, I took my kids out to see the Hall of Fame, and I'm embarrassed about this. I had no idea Aaron Rodgers went to the school. And I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers, Marshawn Lynch, Deshaun Jackson, Ron Rivera, Tony Gonzalez, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that.
Where did Tom
And I
Brady
was in a
go?
good class, but I love Berkeley. I love California.
Did Tom Brady go to Berkeley? No, no, no. Tom Brady went to. He's from
No,
that area, but he went to Michigan. Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
So
now in Cal, right? Are you like running the campus? Are the girls going crazy for you? Because you're a handsome guy. I mean, girls are like, oh my God, you're the
no,
wide
if you'd have
receiver.
seen me back, if you'd have seen me back then, and I even when I got drafted, and you see some of my cards, I have about 20 different NFL cards, and you see the one. I don't know if you can see it behind me. I had
Yeah.
this scruffy beard, and because I never liked shaving, and because I could get these bumps, and I had hair. I had hair worse than that. That's behind me, all over the place. And I mean, most of the pictures I took, even when I got to the Jets as a rookie, I looked like a convict. And I tell people, you think women liked you because of your looks. It wasn't because of the looks. And I actually had a girlfriend since I was a freshman, and there were girls there, but I was very loyal. But that kind of got in the way of our relationship, I think, to a certain degree. But I had a girl since I was a freshman in college there that was my sweetheart, Joy Jacobson, loved her dearly. and we didn't end up being together. But that's a whole different story with prejudice and racism,
Right.
things that I've had to deal with. I mean, there was which we never had this discussion, but I remember her parents being on the campus, but I wasn't even allowed to go to meet them or go to the house or anything like that. And I felt like she would have gotten married to me, but I wouldn't know how to deal with a situation if the parents would disown you and you had children. I don't know how I would have dealt with that situation, but we never really talked about that. But that was, I always, especially when you're dating out of your race or whatever, I want to get the parents or the parents' blessings with that. And even when you get that, that may be a problem too, because they have certain reservations. But that's old school now too. But the racism part in this country is still alive and kicking, and that's one of the things that really bothered me, even with my teammates being together, and we were supposed to be like this family, but some of our prominent players were really prejudiced, and there were guys that would have parties and wouldn't even invite us. There's guys even that were black guys on the team that would be jealous, petty, jealous, go behind your back and say things like, "What does Wesley have that I don't have?" And I had a hard time trusting people, and I just never grew up like that. I don't know why. I never had a bad bone or prejudice or seeing black and white. And I had the ability, because of my father being in the service, we traveled all over the United States and even lived in Germany for 4.5 years. And I remember being in an elementary school was primarily a minority community, and then going to Germany or all over the U.S. And I was probably in more predominantly white schools, but I never had this issue of black and white or knowing the difference. But I know certain people did, but I just never had that, and I still have a problem with things that are happening in this world. I keep my head on the swivel all the time with people, but people that have not experienced prejudice or racism, it doesn't affect them, so they don't see it. But when you've seen it, it just breaks your heart. And then when you're in a pro game and you get there and you're thinking it's going to be totally different, this is not going to be, and it was just even worse, and that was just heartbreaking for me. And it's still heartbreaking to see what's going on in society today, but maybe a little bit more hidden with things or whatever of that nature. But it's something that I still want to speak about, and I want to do it in an intelligent way because
Mhm.
it exists, and I don't like just being silent, not saying anything because
Right.
you haven't been affected by it.
But speaking of hippie, that picture behind you that's the hippie look. I mean, I'm sure the Jets are like, well, yeah, he's from a hippie school.
Oh, but Eddie, you have not seen that. I have pictures that I'm embarrassed about that the Jets, my rookie year, um, as their promotional pictures of me, and I got this scraggly hair, beard. I mean, I'm like, man, I'm looking at myself. How did my parents even let me walk around like this? And I remember my dad said, "What's wrong with that boy?" My mom would just say, "Just let him do what he has to do. That's okay." Which I always respect. My mom could I could be in the wrong, and she could put a damper on everything and make you see it in a good way. But they let me be me,
Well, you know
and
what? Wesley, that's my motto. Don't try to take the character out of the character. Let him
yep.
be.
Yeah,
So if
and
that was
that's a problem with I think relationships and people. And I accept my wife for what she is and what she does. I may not like it, but that's her personality. But when you have people that kind of want to control you, and you just want them to be accepting and treat you just as equal, because I'm going to be equal with you, and I'm going to let you be you, but you got to let me be me too.
exactly. So Wesley, where were you in 1977 in the month of April when you got the phone call from the New
Well,
York Jets?
I was just at my apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been to the draft. 2012, I had the opportunity to introduce the second round draft choice, and I think I was with Harry Carson previously doing an appearance where I went into New York City for the draft, but didn't really get involved with the red carpet type treatment. But I was there in 2012, and these guys are, you got like four draft choices and all these big SUVs, and they put you in with them who you're going to draft with or whatever, or you're going to announce somebody, and you have this whole red carpet. You got all the interviews. It's just totally different now. They have it in different cities now, but back then we didn't have that. It was just a phone call you would get, And I was so disappointed because my senior year, I didn't even know if I was going to, Eddie, I didn't even know if I was going to play again. Uh, I just came off this game. I had like, I think it was against San Jose. I had 289 yards. My coaches is coming up to me. Do I want to play in the Senior Bowl, the East West Shrine, all this other stuff? And scouts are calling me. I'm going to be a number one draft choice. And then matter of fact, it was against USC, and I think it was he's a coach now, Thurman Thomas, not Thurman. I can't even think of it. Hit me as I'm coming down. Now I wasn't supposed to play, and that's why my dad was so keen on me not doing certain things. And I was actually hurt, wasn't supposed to play. My backup wasn't really doing real well, so I went in anyway. Went after a bad ball, came down on my knee, and my opponent hit me right square on the knee. And I didn't know it was that bad because I stayed home. I was home at SC where you spend time with your parents and stuff after the game, whatnot. But my knee was swollen and hurt, and it never hurt so bad. And I remember my grandfather saying, "Oh, it's just a bruise." And I went up back to school that weekend up, and I got there late, and I'm reading in the newspaper I'm going to have to get surgery, and they were all waiting for me and everything else, and I didn't know it at the time, and I ended up tearing my lateral ligament off the bone, and they had to repair it. So I didn't know if I was going to be able to recover, and I remember I ran track, and I didn't really have to. Nobody knew I even signed with an agent my junior year. This guy Mike Trope, well, he had every number one guy, and they kept saying I was going to be a number one draft choice. So after I rehabbed and still ran track and didn't have the greatest of years, but I always went to the championships for the NCAA championship. I was like a world class sprinter. A lot of people didn't know that, but I could run, and I was very deceptive with my speed and whatnot. So I was disappointed when I didn't get the call. And then they're getting ready to start the second round. I get a call in New Orleans, and I was kind of excited because I played with this guy Chuck Muncie, who was awesome player, and he liked to party and stuff. And I was like he's like my role model. I was kind of emulating him. I was kind of excited. Probably was a good thing I got drafted by the Jets, but I get the call they're going to start the second round. So I was excited. I'll be with my man Chuck Muncie. I get a call, and it's her name was Connie Nicholas, but it's Connie Carberg. It's her maiden name. But her dad was our team family physician. Her uncle was our main orthopedic. He ran the show. And we are still friends. And she bills herself as Connie Carberg as the first female scout. And she is wonderful, intelligent, the biggest Jet fan you ever want to see. Very knowledgeable. She knows a lot more than I do, when it comes to scouting and people. And she was a significant part of getting Mark Gastineau. And she called me, and I still remember that day. And I was excited because the Jets said I wouldn't be their choice, and I ended up coming there. So that's how that worked out. And another thing people don't know, they were concerned about my knee. They drafted Marvin Powell, who was like a five-time All-Pro, and he was like my best man and everything else. And I don't know if he had head trauma or problems. He didn't call anybody. He was isolating, and they just found him in bed. They did a wellness check, and we were union reps together, but he wouldn't even call me back. He just disappeared. So I was always worried about him. I even ended up talking to his ex-wife, trying to run him down, and then come to find out all these things were happening with him. But it's unfortunate I didn't get a chance to talk to him, before he passed away. Well, when the Jets drafted him, he had loose knees, and so I get in. They're worried about my knee, and then I can't. They had to do an eye test, and I'd never been checked out in college, really in high school. Nobody even really knew. I always kept it hid because I thought it was going to keep me from playing sports. So I never said a thing about it. And I did that throughout my whole career. So the first time in my entire life, I had a sports team that had to check my eyes. And then I made a joke about it. I said, I'm blind in one eye. I said, I see the big E, but I just said it. I can't see it, but I just know it's there because you can remember that.
I think you studied
And
that
so,
chart. I think you studied that chart when you
yeah.
were younger.
And Leon Hess was livid. You just drafted a guy number one with loose knees, and then you got a receiver. We're worried about your knee, and you're telling me he's blind? So teams started, the Jets anyway, started flying in guys doing pre-physicals. Other teams started doing it, and then they started getting together, and that's how the combines actually got started. So now they house guys, and I didn't have to go to Indianapolis and be a piece of meat. We just got a phone call. They sent some scouts to look at you. A couple people came out just to make sure I was okay. I remember the Jets sent this trainer out, Bob Reese, to look at my knee. So I don't know what transpired, why they got me, and the choices they made to get to the draft. But ours went in this red carpet treatment, a simple phone call, and then you go in. And I remember going to minicamp, and after this whole hoopla broke out about my eye and everything else, I'm at minicamp and I'm running by people. They pulled me out of practice, signed me to a contract, and that was history after that. But
How
I'm
much? How
so
much was
happy.
that? How much was that contract? What'd you get back then in
I'll tell you, it's
1977?
not even comparable. I'll never forget this. That's why I came back and said, man, get your education. It's not what you think. I'm supposed to be a number one draft choice. So I'm thinking at that time I should be in six figures somewhere. I got a $50,000 signing bonus, and my first year salary was $30,000. And I'll never forget this.
Oh,
My
God.
agent got a part of the check, and I had to pay taxes on it. Out of that 50 grand, I'll never forget. I saw 18,000 and change. I'm like, this is pro football, and I'm making 30,000. And I remember my agent at the time, and he had every top guy, Earl Campbell, Chuck. I mean, he was one of the most famous
Who was that?
agents out there, along
Lee
with
Steinberg?
with no, it's Mike Trope and Lee Steinberg. Lee Steinberg tried to recruit me. He was at Cal, but I'd already signed with this Mike Trope, and it was all about the money for me, and that's what he claimed to be. But he had so many guys, he could undersell me. He didn't know what I had, and I ended up dropping him, and I ended up going with a friend of mine that hadn't passed a bar yet, and he finally passed the bar, an attorney agent. But I still feel bad not giving Lee Steinberg that choice. And Lee is a great guy, and he's been through a lot himself. And I remember calling him or texting him, even through Facebook. My son is looking to do this, or I have one of my students knew Warren Moon had a business, and maybe she could work as an intern. And he took care of both of them, set up the meeting or whatever. And I always respect him. And I always think back on the time, and I couldn't tell anybody I'd already signed with an agent like my junior year. They were even paying me, at the time. And
Wait, they were
but it
paying you
still
back
was,
then? They were paying
yeah,
you your junior year?
but it
Wow. Okay.
wasn't the wise decision, because even though he was the number one rated agent at the time, he shortchanged me. And if I'm supposed to be a number one draft choice, and I don't care if I win the second round, he should have gotten me first round money. Now the money is certainly not compared to what it is today. I
But what was the
remember,
first round money back then in 1977? What was it? Can you remember?
I don't remember, but you'd have to be close to the $1 million mark, and I was even asking
Wait a
for a
minute.
million.
In 1977, you could get $1 million for first round?
Yeah, I think so. I think so if you were really good at it,
Holy
But I
shit.
could be wrong with that. But it would be that or under. You know what I mean? And but I remember but this is another thing. My second year, I made the Pro Bowl. And so I wanted to renegotiate my contract, which I always had to hold out. I went with that contract I signed with him. I went from being that little 30,000 to the highest paid, but it was 200,000 my second year. And then I played a couple years after that, and I had to hold out again because they were signing guys like, I think, Al Toon, Freeman McNeil, Joe Klecko, and they were giving them this money, and they were probably in the $700-800 range. And I had to fight every time to go to, I had to hold out and everything else. And so my last 5 years, I probably averaged 800,000, during that time. And I remember getting a million in the signing bonus, but part of it was part of the loan that made it come to a million, which I would pay it back over the time of my contract. So that one year when I renegotiated my last 5 years, I made $1 million. But back then, I was even talking millions of dollars. They thought I was out of my mind. Now you look at, guys 30, 40, 50 million or more now.
Like it's nothing. But here's the thing. Let's say you make 700,000 a year, right? One of the years you made, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, people don't know this. Ordinary fans don't know this, that you guys got to pay taxes in every city you play. Is that right?
Yep, but the thing is, they take that right out. So I hate this because I remember I forgot the quarterback we signed at Pittsburgh. God, his name is not coming to me, but they would call him the 36 million dollar man,
Mm-hmm.
and he never saw that. He never saw that money. over the time because your career is shortened or you get traded or something didn't work out.
Hmm.
Uh, and I always tell people, no matter what it is, 200,000, $1 million, it could be $2 million. You're gonna get half of that, and then you have to pay tax on that half.
So after 700,000, what do you come off with? Like, how much do you get as far as your
Well,
money?
I would say, let's say out of $700, you're talking about 350. Then you pay tax on that, and you got to pay your agents and everything else. So it's going to be a little bit less than that. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
So you're going to get taxed right off the bat. So it's usually about half. You're going to get or a little bit more, and then by the time you pay your agent, he's going to get some of that. But you might clear out of 700. You may clear $300,000 or $400,000. I mean, in money, but you still have to pay bills. Most
Yeah.
guys don't have money, or they're taking care of their mom and dads or families and everything, cars. And I remember, I brought all my family cars, back in then, and I wasn't making money. I was a house and everything else. So it can go like that. So unless you have the wherewithal to manage your money, and that's what I tell guys now. I'm thankful, Eddie. One of the things I'm most proud of, the year I retired in 1989, and I made it a point, especially for my mom, to get my degree, and I was really bummed out. I make All American. I get in the Hall of Fame at Cal. I wanted to still get my degree out of Cal, and I petitioned my economics department uh, to do it. They approved it, but the school itself wouldn't do it. And I knew, like, guys like Richard Todd, I think, were able to take class and still get their degree where they went. So I ended up changing my major. I met this guy who worked with the guys to get their degrees, and I ended up changing my major to psychology in Dobbs Ferry. And then I went to Fordham University in this program in education, which I'm so proud. And I got my master's degree the year I retired. And after my career, I went straight into teaching. I've done a lot of different things, real estate and all this other stuff, and doing charity work and making these investments different places. But I invested in myself with my education, and I ended up doing that for 25 years. And thank God I did, because you don't have health insurance. They give you a 2-year program, a COBRA program. You pay it for 2 years, and then you're on your own. A lot of guys don't even get health care, and they're broke, and they don't have anything. And I have a pension from the NFL. I have a pension from teaching, and then I have lifetime insurance. A lot of guys don't have that, and they're getting sick, and a lot of things are happening.
When does the NFL pension kick in? Let's say you retired in 89. When does it kick in?
You can take it, and a lot of guys take it early because they need the money at 45, 55, or 65, and they get the full benefit. It's at 65 or whatever, just like any other pension. But a lot of guys go through divorce, which I've done, and you're fighting with the lawyers, and they want to get as much. And I tried to tell my ex, hey, wait, you're going to get more, and she couldn't wait. And then she told me after the fact I should have waited. But things like that happen. But the pension is not even close to other sports and what it should be. It's gotten a little better, but nowhere near what it should be for what the players are going through, from what their bodies are going through, the health care, and just to take care of them for a lifetime. And I think when I got, like, I knew a guy that took his early, and he's only probably getting 600 a month
That's
after
it?
playing, like, after 8 years.
Oh my
That's crazy,
God.
right?
Holy
That's crazy.
shit. That's my electric bill and my gas bill right there a month.
I'm telling you, you have no idea. Everybody thinks the NFL takes care of you, and they don't. They're getting a little bit better. They have a Legends program. They call it the Trust. And like, we just had a meeting the other day when we came in for this Legends weekend, and the lady that works for the NFL, Tracy Perlman, does a wonderful job. And they had meetings of what you're entitled to. There are guys that have been in this league, and I was even Greg Buttle's wife called my wife, and Greg didn't even know about the program, and he's a bright guy. And there's a lot of things that we're entitled to that we don't know about unless you really go into the collective bargaining agreement or check with somebody in our union. Has to do a better job informing guys. Even now, I think, I'm not sure what they're doing now. And they used to do a little bit of it, but there are certain benefits that you would be entitled to that if you didn't look at the collective bargaining agreement, you would miss the whole thing. And they just have to make sure guys know exactly what's going on to see what your benefits are. But if they don't have to pay you, they're not going to let you know that. And it's upon the players to try to do that. But a lot of guys don't even have the wherewithal to do that. And that's the shameful part of it all. But I just wish it was built in that every team would make sure you would get every benefit that you're entitled to, so you at least know you have the information. And then if you don't do it, then because some people don't even have the ability to do what I'm doing now. Like we have this HR program through Cigna, where you can get your medical bills, anything you pay out of pocket, you submit it to them and you get reimbursed. But it takes some time to set that up. And a lot of people, players are not even capable of doing it, and especially if you have depression, bipolar. Now, one of my teammates is suffering from Parkinson's right now. He can't even function. Uh, who knows with all the stuff that people are having to deal with. I mean, even myself with all the stuff that I have, I'm just lucky I have a wife that is very smart at doing that, who has helped me. Now, I think I could do it on my own once I get the information, but it's getting the information, and the NFL has to do a better job with that. And it's up to us and some of the guys that played before who are on these committees, like Chad Pennington's there. Anthony Beck used to be there. He's coaching in the new league and whatnot, so he's not there. But they have guys like Tony Richardson and several people in different areas to try to educate us. And being that they were former players with the Jets, we had this meeting to let guys know what's going on. But a lot of guys that Greg Buttle's wife called me the other day, and he didn't even know. Well, I was shocked at that. And he's a bright guy. He's more than capable. But there's guys that just don't know what's available to them.
Well, Wesley, I think this should be your new occupation right here. You experience it, you went through it. You should be the financial advisor to these new kids that are about to sign a huge contract.
Well, I would like that, but a lot of these guys have their guys all in place. The guys are getting smarter now, and especially even when you hear these things with the college guys getting paid now, man, it's a whole
Oh
different
my
world. And I've had agents who you want to recruit for you, but a lot of guys are already tied up or whatever. But you want them to be educated, and I wouldn't even look to be making money at it, but just to educate people.
Well, yeah,
But
you're
I think our
saving a career too. I mean,
yeah,
listen, in football, I always tell people in the NFL, they're just renting you. Okay, the
yeah.
average career in the NFL is 2.5 to 3.5 years. That's it. How are you going to manage your money? Well, when you get drafted, you get the signing bonus. Okay, and then next thing you know, for instance, look, University of California, you had 6 guys that got drafted. 3 didn't even sniff the NFL field, not once.
Yep. Well, that's where guys got to be smart about it, and that's why, like I said, my education was first and foremost. So, and I would, talk to kids. Hey, what's the biggest thing that can happen when you play sport? You could get hurt. So what do you do then? Football, even if you play a long time, I played 13 years. It's still not a career. A career is something you could do the rest of your life and retire. And football is just not like that. So you have to be smart about it yourself and put yourself in a position. And you got to be smart about it. And some guys don't get the opportunity. So then you have to do something else. So you got to figure that out. That's why the education is so important. And I'm not so sure a lot of guys now who are making the money are very smart, and they're thinking along those lines. And I think they are now because they've seen too many people who go by the wayside. But there are still guys that are playing this game. They end up destitute and they have problems and health issues and they have nothing. And I remember, too, just from I never wanted to get married because of divorce. I don't want to ever go through that. And that's only reason. Not that you wouldn't want somebody, but you're afraid, and people do change. I've seen that with people. They say they're not going to do certain things, and then they do everything they said they wouldn't do. But you have to be prepared for everything. And when that time comes when you don't play this game, you have to have something to fall back on, or you make sure you had a good enough investments where you secure yourself. These guys now are playing today, and if you got 40, 50 million, I don't see how you lose everything. But you can lose anything you get with the wrong person, the wrong investments, and you can
But
be wiped out.
did you remember that ESPN 30 for 30 broke the documentary of the
I haven't
NFL?
seen that. I have to
Oh,
look at it.
Wesley, you
Hey,
have to
now
watch
that you've
that.
said it, I'm gonna watch that. But
Listen,
there's so many
that is
good.
your homework assignment because I will
Yep.
quiz you. I'm gonna quiz you on
I,
it. Listen, you're
like,
gonna you're gonna say to yourself, "Thank you, Eddie, for telling me to watch this."
well, I'm definitely going to watch it. And with me, Eddie, with the things that we're talking about, we're discussing, and I hope and I'm talking to a writer now and a publisher that's interested in like my story. But it's stuff like that you want to make people aware of because they think we're being provided for, you know. And I want to make it interesting, but I want to make it something that people can look at. Oh my God, we got to look at this and think about that's what I got to do with my life. And this doesn't even pertain to just athletes. It's in general for
Right.
people in general, you know, because
And
uh,
yeah, and
there
the
are a lot
viewers
of people.
and the one more thing, as far as for you viewers out there that are watching, when I'm gonna put this up, is that you guys only get paid during football season. That's it. That
That's
means
it.
when
Unless
do
you
you
set
start
it
to
up
get
different.
paid? July is training camp. That's when you guys get started.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so from July till the final playoff game or the Super Bowl or whatever, or your season, just the regular season, right? You're done then.
Well, it used to be where you can set it up for a long term if you want to get paid, but most of the time you got paid during that season, and that was it. You know, everything is all up front for that season. Your game checks were broken up into 16, 17 games. Back in my time, it was, I think, 12 or 14.
Yeah.
You know, it was 12 at first and then 14.
But then back then, when you were married, was your wife saying, "Well, honey, you're in the NFL. Come on, let's go vacation." You have to be tight with your money a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, I was always frugal. I didn't have a wife like that, and I don't have one like that now. But I also know myself, I wasn't that type. You want to take care of your families, the people you're close to, the things that you have to do, and but secure your future for your kids and everything else.
That much.
I was very lucky. Yeah, and my attorney agent, we had a budget. My
Mhm.
my ex-wife was not nearly like that. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
okay.
There are times where you think you see other teammates have au pairs and you try this, that, and everything. But we were very frugal, saved money on a budget, so I didn't have that problem. I know certain people did, and I remember Mark Gasol having all this stuff, and I always thought once he was making the money, even the wife had changed to a certain degree, their behaviors with the money and all the accolades. But I was very lucky, and I was always mindful of people, whoever you dated, and I had a very, you know, mistrust for people because a lot of women that you associate yourself with, they really didn't have their stuff together, independent, and the kind of women that I went out with, at least you were independent and it wasn't just dependent on me. And I didn't want to be a cash cow for anybody, but that's what happens with certain situations with people.
Wesley, in 1983, right? They drafted Ken O'Brien, but then 4 picks later, it's Dan Marino. Were you thinking back then? Oh, damn.
Well, a lot of
Oh,
people, lot. If you watch that story, I forgot what it was on. I think it was on in 30 for 30s. And you watch that whole, uh, that whole draft, with John Elway, Marino, and Marino's draft just stock. I don't know if it was word with marijuana or something that I'd heard different stories,
right.
but I always heard that, and I still cringe when people booed and when you see tape of Kenny O'Brien. Kenny O'Brien was one of the best athletes, best quarterbacks I've ever had been associated with or played with. And I remember this guy, Gary Myers, who's a big writer, who's been very supportive of Joe Glecko getting into the Hall of Fame. And we did this thing together, and I said, and I love Joe Namath, and it's not nothing against him. He's a gentleman, one of the best people I've ever met. Ever since I met him, it's like I played with him. But I would say to people, I would take Kenny O'Brien over Joe Namath, John Elway, or Dan Marino. I loved him that much. And I watched Dan Marino and John Elway in a Superstars competition, and Kenny won the competition. So he had
Wow.
this ability. But the problem we always had, um, man, Kenny got sacked a lot. But we didn't go to the playoffs as often as we'd like. You don't get the accolades, getting to the Pro Bowl, winning championships. A lot of it's for show and being out there in the public eye. But we had guys like Joe Glecko, Mark Gastineau. I look at Al Toon, Kenny O'Brien, myself. We could play with anybody. And you wouldn't by any means know this as a fan or even some players around the league because you didn't play against them to know what your real abilities were unless we stepped on the same field. but we had all of the same abilities as a team, as players, as anyone in this game. And I'm prejudiced because I played with Kenny O'Brien. Okay, I would love to have the experience with a John Elway or a Marino or Joe Namath. I don't know if it would have been different for me,
But
but
Wesley, hold on a minute. You said earlier you wish you had the ball thrown to you a lot more. I will guarantee you, if Dan Marino was your quarterback, brother, you would get a lot of receptions.
now you sound just like a friend of mine, Ed Martinez. You even sound like him. But I was just gonna say before that, the reason being, and I know the ability that Kenny O'Brien had, just because you had a John Elway, a Dan Marino, if he would have came to the Jets, different coaching style, it makes a difference in offense, the mindset of coordinators. He might not have had the kind of setup or coaches getting his ability out there. Just because he's Dan Marino doesn't mean I'm going to get the ball. It's about the system. And that's what my dad was always wanting me to run track. It's a team thing, and you have a mindset of a coach who's looking at it one way. The coach didn't look at me as uh, a guy that could go deep or short or be in the slot and utilize me. They just saw me as a deep threat, or I'm a guy that couldn't be physical or whatever. But when you have somebody that sees something in you, whether you're at quarterback, whatever position, put you in that light, just because you're John Elway or Dan Marino, and he went to put him with different teams, or like say a Detroit Lions alluded to, you think he might have had the same kind of
You got a good
offense
point. You
or
got a
still
good
not
point.
around the people. So that's all relative. Now, the way you can figure that out, if you put Kenny O'Brien with the same quarterback, the same teams, given the same situation, then I would say yeah. And I would have loved to have that opportunity. But just because I didn't get the ball, that's system, that's coaching, that's the system. But doesn't mean Dan Marino would have been good at Joe Walton's or Walt Michaels' particular guys, their offense. That's all the point I'm making.
Okay, but I'm sure Dan Marino could adjust real quickly because he's seen it. Like he knows, he's quick. Like you picked up as a receiver as a kid, right? Like, this guy's fast. He knows what he's doing. University of
Absolutely. There's
California,
guys
right?
that
You
come in
see
that
that
don't pick it
some
up. Yeah.
some people see it really quickly, and some guys it takes a little time. I mean,
Absolutely.
look at the
You're
late blooms, right? Look at the late blooms. We got what's the quarterback from San Francisco? Where'd he come from all of a sudden?
pretty.
Brock,
Yeah. And there are
right?
guys that can make that adjustment. And I understand that. But Kenny O'Brien could have made that adjustment. That's
All
all I'm
right.
saying.
I have
He
listen.
was just
I'm
as
still
good as
saying
any
Ken.
one of those guys. Given the opportunity, he was man. I had a guy like I had Vince Ferragamo in college. I had Steve Barkowski. They both got drafted number one by the Rams, one by Atlanta. Great quarterback, and some of the best I've ever seen. But they didn't have the years that they could have had or should have had. And if you talk to them, they probably would say the same thing. But they're great quarterbacks. I had a guy, Joe Roth, who died of cancer senior. He surpassed all their records, and he was going to be the second coming of Joe Namath, they thought, and he passed away of cancer. So you really don't know until you get that opportunity. All I'm saying, put Kenny O'Brien in the same situation as a John Earl or Dan Marino or Joe Namath for the matter, and then you see where that fares.
Right, right.
That's all
So,
I'm saying.
so when it
I
comes,
just think he had the same ability as they did. He just didn't have the opportunities they did. I mean, we weren't a team that throw the ball. I mean, Marino threw the ball a lot. We weren't that. We had more of a balanced attack, and we always had offenses. We tried to keep it balanced with the run. Nowadays, the system, they're spread out. It's more of a passing league. We weren't like that. We had fullbacks during that time. So you're very limited in your structure on how to divvy up that ball. And that makes Kenny O'Brien limited. That makes me limited if you're structured in a certain way where they're not using the ability of the best of their players to get them the ball. That's just the way it is. But that's my feeling on Kenny O'Brien.
when you were running your
And I'm
routes,
sticking by it.
okay, listen, you're loyal,
What's
my
that?
man. I love it. You are loyal. I love it.
We'll be that way to the day I die.
I love it. I mean,
I
listen,
hope.
it's fine.
I hope.
Everyone.
I hope. I just hope when the day I die, people will say, "Man, that guy never changed." And I love my teammates. And it's not being prejudiced. It's just what you feel and what you've seen. And I'm not belittling John Elway or Dan Marino. I take even with myself. You look at the best receivers, and I would love to bend Jerry Rice's numbers, or some of the guys around the league, or even what Tyreek Hill is doing. That's the kind of guy I am. My goal was to get 2,000 yards because nobody's ever done it back then when I was playing. But I didn't get the ball enough, so it was going to be impossible, But I just know that we have guys that have the same ability. The only way you can judge, and I used to tell this they used to say about Lamb Jones, who's faster or who's the fastest in the league. Well, until you line us all up together, then you'll find out. You just don't know. And so if you line people up and give them the same ability, the same situation, then you can see who fares better. Hey, maybe John Elway or Marino would beat Kenny O'Brien. I don't believe that, but that's my belief.
Right, right. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
I just want to see your
I,
take
and,
on
and
it.
I don't even give enough credit. I tell him all that. I'm doing a self promotion through Facebook right now. Guys that I think deserve to be in the Jets Ring of Honor. He's one of them. Richard Todd does. But you look at Joe Namath's stats compared to those guys, and it wouldn't be comparable. You know
But
what
the
I mean?
thing is
He
that
went
he's
to
got a
Super Bowl.
rock. That's why. That's the thing. That's what they look at. Well, who's got the rock?
Well, that's not the only thing to look at because there's a lot
I
of
know, but you
guys
know how
without rocks.
NFL critics
Look at Dan Marino. He's in the
right.
Hall of Fame, but he never went to a Super Bowl.
No, but
So
I'm just saying,
that's all trivial.
right. But people break it down. Well, he's got a rock. Well, he doesn't. Well, this guy has this. Well, he doesn't. You can't win. You can't win. In this
Yeah, well, that's
situation.
BS to me. I don't look at that. You got to look at the talent, what you bring to the table, and nobody would even know just this what I brought to the table to the Jets offense, whether you were in or being a decoy, and how much they flourished, unless you really delved into it to know what Wesley Walker did for that team. And people that don't know that or these analytics, until you really look at it and say, oh man, this guy was more important than we ever gave him credit for. But when you go to playoffs, you're in Super Bowl, you're getting the publicity. I remember my teammate Bruce Harper led the league in all-purpose yardage. They gave it to this guy, Rick Upchurch, who was very deserving, but he had been there numerous times, and it was politics. But he led the league. He should have been there instead of him because they're very limited who they could pick during that
Right.
time. And there was a lot of guys. I remember I missed out on being a Pro Bowler. I went as an alternate, and I didn't get there because if somebody gets hurt, you go. But I was just a bit good as anybody they had. I mean, I started one year. Steve Largent was my backup, and I remember
Wow.
Lynn Swan telling me, "Hey man, just go for your average. That's all you have to do in this game, man." Because I averaged like 24.7 a year, and then I was averaging 25.7 the following year, and then I get hurt. A lot of times you just don't get the exposure, you don't get the opportunities, and then naturally with me being healthy, and they look at your durability too. That's all part of it, but it doesn't mean you can't play with the big guys up there.
Right.
That
No,
get all
listen,
the
you're in the
accolades.
NFL for a reason. I mean, you can play with the big guys. You're in the NFL for a
Yeah.
reason.
Well, I tell that to all people. Everybody always looks at who was the hardest hitter. I said, when you get to this level, they all hit hard. I had my guys in practice hit me so hard. Jerry Holmes hit me so hard. That's why I got 14 screws in the plate and the cage in my neck right now. He was the start of that. I wouldn't paralyze him and hit in practice that he gave me.
Holy
But
shit.
when
In
you get to that
practice,
level, you pretty much
in your days,
practice.
practice, they would destroy you. They don't care. Teammates or not, right?
I go to Jets training camp. They have relaxed practices, veterans days off, shorts and shoulder pads, and very limited in what they do. I get sleepy just because you're bored watching it. We hit for at least 2 weeks, pads going at it, 90-degree heat every day. And it's just so different. And then what's scary is that they do all these things to limit injuries, and guys are still getting hit left and right and getting hurt. But there are times, Eddie, I look at now, somebody hits and guys get right up, and I'm like, how the hell do you get up from that? I don't know. I don't miss those days. My injuries right now have come after my career. Like I said, I have 14 screws, the plate and the cage. I had C4 through 7 fuse. I had a 6-level fusion in my back in 2014. I got 2 big rods and 10 screws there. I just had a laminectomy, my second back surgery, this December. Had my right knee replaced, which was really bad. It was the one I hurt in college, but I hurt it all the time. I just got that replaced in February. My good knee has to be done, And I'm just like, I can't take it right now because I'm struggling just walking right now. But I've had both my shoulders done and my Achilles, and you like say, whoa, and then I may have to have more. And you hear these things, and you've seen other players and guys I even see now that played during before me, or former players that I've seen, like this guy Randy Rasmussen played for like 17 years for the Jets, or 16 years, and you see him hobbling. And I just saw Lance Mel at this weekend, and he's been hobbled with so many knee injuries and knee replacements, and he only played 8 years, but it takes a toll on your body, and I'm still going through it.
But Wesley, here's my question to you. If I told you while you're in high school, I said, hey, listen, here's the thing. You're gonna make it to the NFL, but you're gonna go through injuries, you're gonna have surgeries, you're gonna be beat up. Would you change your mind and say, you know what? Let me play baseball?
No, absolutely. Most athletes will say they would still play because they love the game. Uh, and a couple of years ago, Newsday came out with this newspaper out in Long Island, and there was a whole thing on the NFL, and you can look it up on the internet. And a lot of guys were retiring early because now with the money that they're making. And this is the thing. The way I feel now, it is not worth it, and I would say no. But knowing the love that I have and what I want to do for my family, I would figure I would figure out a way with the money to make sure my family is taken care of because they're making a ton of money now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there are a lot of programs health wise you can get involved in. Like I said, I never even drank water, so there's more thing health wise. Take care of your body, because I wasn't a saint. I partied my ass off and I had fun, taking care of your body, doing things differently. And the way things are now, maybe I would, because I do love the game, I would change myself to do it, but it's not doing it for me because I do not like feeling this way. I would be doing it because I have a family to take care of and I would want to steward that for them. But knowing what I know now, the way I feel, I don't like feeling this way. And,
And I feel
but
your
I don't know
pain,
that I
man.
could,
And I really,
yeah,
I feel bad. Like I'm like, man, you're such a great guy. You still look good, but you're going through pain every day, and it's like, damn, man.
yeah, I know my kids when they see me when I'm at their house, and you're getting older too, and I don't feel good, and you're like I'm walking hunched over, crooked, and I remember making in front of a friend of mine that went through back surgery, and you could tell me he's crooked, but the doctor said that's how I walked in the office, and I see certain things right now, and I know my wife is really concerned with it right now, and my mind is good, and I walk, but I can't run. It's very frustrating when you go to and see yourself the way you used to look, and I even was relating to Arnold Schwarzenegger, in this documentary he did. He looked at himself in the body now compared to where it used to be.
I saw
And I
that.
know
Yeah.
that still. But the big question is, would I do it again? Knowing what I know now, I don't like feeling this way, but you can set your family up and, because, and this is another thing, by the grace of God, I got hit in practice, went paralyzed. They send me to all these specialists. And I remember going out to Buffalo, and then I saw the guy that operated on Dennis Bird, and Dennis Bird wasn't in great shape even after that. He was able to walk, but it just messes up your life. I wouldn't want to be like that. I took a chance, 3 years of having that happen to me. And I'm just now getting the surgeries now. In 2007, I had this fusion. But I got hit in practice where I hit somebody and I would get this tingling numbness, I got hit so hard by Jerry Home I was frozen where I'm trying to run and I couldn't run. It was the weirdest sensation. And they said, if this happens again, you're going to have to retire. And it happened again on me hitting somebody. And I'm walking off the field and I feel like it was in slow motion. Everybody's high fiving. I just hit. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And I wasn't going to say anything. And I did. And they put me on injured reserve. So then it was time they were saying I had to retire. And I had a coach, Carson, who went to the Cleveland Browns, said he would be interested if I still wanted to play. I was considering it. I went because you love it and you're trying to, like I said, it's for your family and everything else. And I was considering it. And then I went to my doctor and he said, Wesley, I've been telling you the last 3 years, this is what you have an opportunity here to really hurt yourself really bad. And I never said anything. The Jets, how I don't even know how to put it, because I felt like it wasn't compassionate enough. They took care of Dennis Bird with his surgeries and stuff, but they had me sign a waiver in case I get hurt, and they wouldn't be liable for anything. And you would like to think that your team, knowing the person you are, what you brought to the table, what you sacrificed, all the needles and things you went through to play games, that hey, we want you to play, but if something happens, we're going to still take care of you. And it just wasn't like that. I signed a waiver in case something happens to me. I'd be out the door just like that. And there was a time in our contracts, if you got hurt during a year and there was a career-ending injury, they had a clause. The clubs had the choice paying your contract or $65,000 or whatever is less. And most of the time they pay you that 65 grand and you're out the door and wouldn't see a light of day. I had a friend of mine break his neck. I remember he was on the plane with a collar and paid. And it's like, there's something going on. They didn't x-ray him properly or something. And then I see him next day at Lenox Hill Hospital in a halo at broke his neck. He was out the door just like that. Never played maybe 1 year with the Jets or whatever. And that's just the way. And I just saw him at our Legends Week, and we talk all the time. But it's stuff like that I want to talk about if I ever write this book, just how things are. And like I said, I want to reiterate that the way I feel right now, I would say absolutely not. But knowing the athlete and the way I am, I would try to figure out a way to, now that I know what I know now, health wise, how to take care of yourself, how to train. You're making a ton of money to do something with the money to help my family. That would be my sacrifice for my body. But to say I feel good about what I've sacrificed, it's not worth it. I don't know, and we're all going to get old, so you might as well do something that you love and
Yeah.
take the lumps while you got them, because we're going to get old. My wife and I had a business before we left New York where we work with the elderly, and I could relate to them. They're in walkers. They got Parkinson's, and we watch them go through hospice and the aging process. It's not fun, and I see myself in them. And this is what's happening. I can relate to them when they're struggling, from my injuries and what they have to deal with as getting older and aging. And it's not a fun process. And most people will tell you, I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but getting older is not for pussies, and it's true. And I'm hurting, man, every day struggling, and but I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna stay positive. I'm gonna try to find every possible way to try to get treated to get better, and that's why I was out in New York staying with my doctor friend, but. He doesn't even know this. I was actually doing real good with the treatments, and he would like to do it over a long-term basis. I may have to find a physical therapist now, but the last 2 days, I've been hurting more than I've ever hurt before. And that's why I put a call into my doctor. I got really annoyed that I haven't been able to get a hold of them to get this injection, at least to try something. And it's been many months that this was supposed to go through, but you're fighting with workman's comp to get something that you deserve, and they owe it to you, and you got to fight just to get in. I have a cardiologist that came already recommended, and it takes you months to just make an appointment to see him. I could be dead by the time that I see these people, and so I'm starting to get annoyed at that. But I try to take care of myself. I'm lucky I have a wife. My wife Barbara is a health nut, and I'm doing raw vegetables, drinking green drinks, and bee pollen, and doing all these things. But I still have to exercise, and I can't run, so I walk. So I'm trying to do things to have to stay. Hopefully, as I get older, stay well, so you're healthy. Because I've seen people who've gone through the aging process and they're not healthy, and that's not a fun way to be living. And I don't want my wife having to take care of me and changing me, and I can't even move or push me in a wheelchair or nothing. And then sometimes I wish I had a wheelchair, because you can get through TSA real quick with that stuff. I've had a torn Achilles, and they put me right in front, and we almost missed our plane, and I can't run. And thank God a guy came through a cart, because I got bags and I'm struggling just walking. And thank God he got us there to the gate on time so I can make my flight from New York, because they had this bad weather. But it's stuff like that that bothers you, that things that I can't do anymore. And it's not that I can't do it. It's just it's a lot slower and it's just a lot harder. And I just have to work at it a little bit more. And that's very
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel you, man. Because I always tell people, if you're healthy, you're spoiled, man. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Well, people, I hope people don't take that for granted. And like I said, you could get sick. My ex is going through. She's got to get a double mastectomy the 18th Monday, and going through this whole thing. And I've talked to people that have gone through the whole cancer thing. I have many friends going through that. So I look at things with my life and things that I'm going through. Yeah, I have a lot to complain about, but I don't because I know there's a lot of people are a lot worse off and what things they have to go through emotionally. And I'm just here to support people in any way I can. And that's why I love working with the elderly. And we're doing the same thing here, only we're working with kids. I mean, we have this blind couple, and we were talking today that if they'd have no family, and they were talking about getting their will and trust and things together. My wife is good at that, but they were saying they don't even have family to take care of the kids. And my wife said maybe they would ask us if we'll take care of it, and we'll do it. It would be hard, but we're caring people, and that's what you want to do for people, you know. And so we have a lot of people that we're helping out here now, despite what I'm going through. There's a times where I haven't even slept in my own bed for 3 weeks at a time because we're helping families. They go away and they need somebody in their house, or they have pets. And my wife is always on these apps, and she's got all these jobs, and I'm probably working harder than I ever worked before. And I'm supposed to be retired. I'm retired like from the Jets, from teaching, and thought I was retired when I got to, at the end of my career teaching. And we're doing all these things for the elderly and just working. You know, we're getting paid to do it, but we're helping others. And I look back on my life, and I was just saying, I was watching this movie, The Equalizer, with Denzel Washington. And in the beginning, the first movie, there's a quote by Einstein that says, "The most important day of your life is when you're born, and when you find out why." And I've been trying to figure that out, but I've done things for people, and I'm just like, I don't want to say I'm Jesus or God, but I'm here to serve others, and that's what I try to do. I've
well,
gotten so much love from.
Jackie Robinson said it the best. It's not what you could do; it's what you could do for others.
And I love that, and I try to do that, and I know no other way. And like sometimes people that I'm around, they're not as compassionate as I am. And I might have a friend that might be clingy, but they need to talk to somebody. Their parents are going through disease, and they're lonely, and I don't mind sharing, and I'll go meet people in the stands. And sometimes I'm like, I told my wife, you're pimping me out to these fans too, but yet they're nice people, and they do things for you, and they have so much respect. I told this lady, Hillary, that used to be affiliated with the Jets, and she hired me to come to the Las Vegas game with the Raiders.
Hmm.
And she wrote this thing on social media about what I meant to the Jets team, and things that you would say as a player that should be coming from your own team, and it never has. And I had to personally thank her for doing that, and that's what I feel. And I was watching I don't know if you've seen Netflix on Yogi Berra.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. This guy had all the accolades and didn't get the respect. And I was watching, and this is the way I feel when your own team and they give it to other people, and some of these people weren't good teammates, and it's a lot of politics involved, but you know what you brought to the table, and that's why I'll go out of my way for fans. I had two jerseys waiting for me to sign when I got home. One lady that I met, and out of the goodness of my heart and hers, I happened to be in Marco Island, and she lived there, big Jet fan. And she asked would I come see her while I was there because I was close by, and we met her. And I just feel like she's a friend of mine. I met a lady. I see her on Facebook all the time. She was at the game. Finally had a chance, but it's like I know these people, but I respect them. And I don't know why, because I've never been into the whole celebrity or the Jet thing, and I still have a hard time. How do I sign my name and get paid for it? I wouldn't pay for anybody's autograph. But these fans are like crazy sometimes, but they're good people, and they have a respect for you. And so I know no other way but to be kind, and try to be honest, and try to be there for people. And if I can be of any assistance to help you get through the day with something, I want to try to do that. The only problem I really have is when people are close to death and hospice, and you don't know what to say. But the only thing I can say now, I was talking to a friend of mine with one of her friends she's going to lose with cancer, and she has cancer herself, my friend Laura. And I said to her, and there's a quote a friend of mine told me, there's never a bad time to get to heaven on the wrong. There's never a wrong day to get to heaven. So that's the way I look at things, and I just hope I can provide just happiness to others, or if I have to do some type of service and it makes me feel good. And I'm glad I got the support of my wife that wants to do that. And but I do that for anybody, you know. And I've been lucky over the years, even with my blindness. I remember this teacher wrote me a letter. His son was losing his sight, and it's this. His name was Andy Solari. He was known him since he was 9 and a half, and I called the teacher right back, his father, and he was shocked. And then I called back to talk to him, and we had a nice conversation. And I would send him jerseys and things I would just do for anybody. And he ended up going to Cal because I went to Cal, and they flew me out to California for his graduation. They did this whole big article in the papers there, and he spoke at the little breakfast they had for me and everything. And I was just so moved that something I did that I would do for anybody. And I have letters that the teachers wrote or he wrote on my behalf, and it was something I would do for anyone. But you change somebody's life, and that was the first time I said, "Oh man, you really can affect somebody." And I'm just so disappointed in myself for not doing more with my blindness to help out, people who have had accidents or whatever. And I just wish maybe I would have done something with the Jets to create some type of charity for that, because people have a hard time dealing with certain things. But I'm friendly with his family since he's in his 30s now, and he's got kids, and we see each other when I go to California. They've been out to my house, and I've been out to theirs, and it's just a nice feeling. But just something you did out of the kindness of your heart, and you just, people are people. I'm no different than anybody, human being, just like you, Eddie. And if you can affect people's lives, and you're doing that now by these podcasts, you don't know who you're going to be able to help and motivate to try to change it in a positive way, and that's what I'm about. And I hope, like I said, the day I die, people say, man, that guy never changed. He's a good day,
No, Wesley, I'm gonna brag about you
Yeah.
like a heart needs a beat.
Yeah.
You
Well, I
know,
appreciate that. I'll
you
be
know.
bragging about you. Hey, I tried to do that social media thing, with the Twitter. I'm not real good at the
I
Instagram.
know most of
Yeah,
guys like Leonard Marshall, all you older guys, you're clueless with that, and I get it. It's social media. You're not familiar with that
well, the
bullshit.
thing is, I remember a dear friend of mine set me up with Facebook, and it was right when I had my first neck surgery, and then I had back surgery, and I couldn't sleep. And ever since then, I haven't been able to sleep. And I used to take Ambien to get 3 hours of sleep, and on the Vicodin and this, that, and now I don't take anything. But I was on Facebook, and it was good. I could meet friends or you
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
and I could print. And my wife gets mad at me because she said I got postitis, but there are things out there that motivate me and that I say for myself. It's not for friends, but sometimes I put stuff out there because it's something that somebody said motivational that is important. I think it's important for me, and it would help others. And I like it. I've been able to even be in touch with friends, and I've been doing that ever since I had it. But I wouldn't sleep, so I'd be there. People's like, "Do you ever sleep?" But it was I don't even know how to put it. It was just a thing that I could relax and enjoy myself, and had a calming effect besides going to the beach. That's my thing. And now I don't have the beach in Arizona. I missed that about Long Island, but it's too cold in Long Island right now.
Oh,
But it
it
gets
is.
hot here, Eddie, in Arizona, man.
Oh,
I've
I
never had
know.
heat. But
You know,
but like I said,
speaking of vision, what's crazy is that I'll tell you a funny story with my mom. When I was like 5, 6, 7 years old, I would tell my mom, I love Bugs Bunny. I want ears just like him. And then my mom would say, oh, you see the carrots? Keep eating all these carrots. And I would eat carrots every day. And then I would go to the bathroom and I'm like, Ma, look, my ears are getting bigger. Yeah, honey, keep eating. And then my vision became 20 and 10.
yeah, oh my God.
Yeah, so I was like, I had a scholarship for baseball down in Florida, small school,
Yeah,
Palm Beach Atlantic University, and it's
yeah.
like, but when I was a kid and we wait for the bus stop, and my mom would say, "Is the bus coming?" People were like, "No, it's not coming," and I'll walk in the middle of the street real quick. Oh yeah, it's coming. People are like, "How does your son see so well?"
Right, see that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like, and but I think for you, you got beautiful grandkids. I grabbed some pictures right here from
Yeah,
Instagram
we're
right
working
here.
on our daughter. Our daughter here is expecting again March 17th, and she's going to have a boy, and so this will be the ninth grandkids. And I was just telling my kids today, I just wish I had more quality time, because when we come to Long Island, we stay on Long Island. All my kids are in New Jersey, and it's at least an hour and a half to 2 hours to see them individually.
Hmm.
And so I don't even get a chance to see them and see the grandkids and trying to see friends and family. We were just every day had something to do, and then I'm trying to get treatment, physical therapy with my doctor on top of all of that. So told my kids that next time I have to come out where I can spend more time, or at least quality time with them. But I love family, I love kids, and I love serving others, and that's what really I'm all about, you know. And I love music too. Don't get me wrong. And I love
Well,
fishing out here, but it's too hot, you know. But
I also saw on your Facebook you love bowling too. Is that true?
yeah, but now with my back and everything, I can't even. I don't even want to attempt it right now, too.
Right,
And
yeah, yeah.
that's one thing. And I shoot. I remember I won this little trophy, averaging 114 when I was really little. My dad taught me how to bowl when I was really little, and I still have his bowling ball with his nickname. His name, John Wesley, but his nickname was Sonny, and I had Sonny put on this ball. But I haven't been in a while because of my injuries, whatnot. But fishing I can do because it's not that exerting, but there's a lot of things that I'm limited to do right now, and that really bothers me. But I love movies. Besides movies and music, that's my main thing, you know.
So, if there was a biography about Wesley Walker, what actor would you hire to play you?
Oh my gosh,
I want to put you on the spot right now.
I don't. Jesus, I mean, I love Denzel Washington, but I'd have to look at a list. That's one thing about getting old. In as many movies that I've ever watched, I wouldn't even know their real names. And then if you give me a multiple choice, looking at the picture and you have the name, then I would probably know it then. But
Oh,
there's a
okay.
lot of actors I don't know. But geez, my favorite, and he's not alive. If I had anybody besides Denzel Washington, it would be Sidney Poitier, you know,
Oh
because
yeah,
I
oh
love
yeah.
him.
Special. He's
But
special.
there's just so, and this is I'm glad you asked that because it's similar to the Kenny O'Brien and the Dan Marino. You have so many great actors, and to say who's the best, it's nothing like. I used to love Burt Lancaster.
Hmm.
I can go on and on with the women and men. I mean, they're great. They bring some. Everybody brings something. But to say who the one greatest one, I can't answer that. You know, I really can't.
But in acting, you could be the best and still not have a job. In sports, you're the best. You have a job.
I don't know about that because I feel like you know, well, Lamb Jones hurt himself. He could have been the best working one, but sometimes you just don't get those opportunities, and it could be injury or
Right.
something to
Yeah.
keep it. And sometimes it could be yourself, maybe not doing the right things or whatever. But to say who's the best, I don't know. Like I'm sure Al Toon would argue he was better than me. I'd argue just the opposite. You know, I made him better.
Were you
But
best friends with Al Toon? Did you guys hang out often?
no,
No.
no. And my ex wife would always say, "Well, how come you can't be?" He was like the all American guy. We weren't close, and even now, a lot of people can't get a hold of him. He's a strange. We had different.
And were you tight with Al Toon since you guys were great wide receivers?
No, I know my ex wife always say, well, "Why don't you? You're not good friends with Al Toon, or why couldn't you be like Al Toon?" And I always felt like he was this all American type, and it wasn't. That wasn't me, you know. And I was probably more aloof and the party, having a good time, but also a professional. And there was a time I remember I was holding out and you share information or you try to with your players. And I remember, I didn't know if he wanted to or his agent had said, well, I'm not in the caliber of him. And it was very offensive to me. And sometimes in some respect, I thought there was a competition where he felt he was better than me. And so we weren't really that close as players because and we had our own lives with marriage and kids and everything else. And people do their own thing. I wasn't really close to a lot of different people. But I always said, not him per se, but other players, you know, there was just a lot of cliques on our team. And like I said, petty jealousies. And unless I felt you were treating me the way I would treat you and it had this closeness, then I could be receptive to that. But there was nobody on the team that I had. And it was very hard for even my good teammate that I had in college. He tried out as a free agent with the Jets and played for about 8 years in them. And he was my roommate out in New York. And but there's things that transpired where things happen and you have a mistrust where they're not being honest with you with certain things or whatever. And there was a lot of guys that I would hung out with, but they would go behind your back with certain things. So and I was okay with that. I have confidence in myself, but I didn't worry about somebody bad mouthing me or doing something disrespectful. But if I know that you did, I just have to keep that knowing that's where it is. And I can be friendly with you, but I'm not going to be this close friend as a friend should be, as what you call a friend, that somebody be there thick and thin. But I really didn't have anybody like that, you know?
Yeah, but
And
not one teammate that you were really close with.
nope. Nope.
Holy
We had,
shit!
I call them acquaintances because we didn't hang out. Everybody did their own thing, you know. There would be periods where you maybe hung out a little bit, but there was no one team. I like being independent on myself, you know what I mean? And that just made me happy. And I had to learn too, sometimes when I went out, I'd always have to have a friend or, one of my pals go out. But I had to learn, hey, I don't need anybody to hang with. If I want to go hang out, I can go by myself and just have a good time. But I was never, I just wasn't that type. I'm not a guy. Like guys would go out. I know, like Greg Buttle and Marty Lyons and that the clan that they had. They'd play cards and have nights like that. But even people here, like my brother-in-law wanted to go out with some of his friends, and like as a guy. At the end of the night, I want to be with my wife. I don't want to be with a bunch of guys. I've just never been a guy thing. You know what I mean? That's just me though.
Did
And
you ever
not everybody's
party?
like that.
Did you ever party with the Giants?
Not really. The only time we ever got together, and we were like fighting, we played in these charity basketball games, but we'd be going at it, fighting each other, But there's, like I said, guys like there'd be a charity benefit, like one of my teammates in Jersey, and then you'll see guys like O.J. Anderson, Harry Carson comes, and they're friendly, and and there were things that we would do together in that respect, but not really hanging out. I would have loved to hang out with the Lord's Teller and stuff, but I've been
Oh
in
man,
trouble too.
you
That's
be the
another story.
you be the king in the China club with him.
Oh my God. Hey, believe me, I was just as I wasn't perfect back in the day, but I like having a good time. But
But
there's
the
a
thing
point
is, you
where you
guys
can.
are athletes. You guys are young. You should be having a good time. You're in your
Yeah.
20s. Why not?
But the thing is
Just be
that you don't.
responsible on the field. That's it.
Yeah, but that's the way it was. But at the same time, knowing what I know now, you have to take care of your body. You have to do things. It's fine to go party, do all those things. Do that after you get what you get. Get what you want, your goal. And if you want to secure yourself, you get that first. And that's why I respect Tom Brady. He took care of himself, played a long time. I don't think he's a big party or whatever, but he could have been. But you get what you get, and then you can do whatever you want.
Well, he's partying right now. I don't blame him.
Yeah. Well, he got what he needed to do. He did what he had to do, and he was successful at it. And people get mad at me. I love Tom Brady, and he's got a lot of rings to show for it. There's some people that don't get to a Super Bowl, and he went to multiple. That's hard to do, and you got to respect that.
Oh, listen. First of all, to get to the Super Bowl, the number one thing, besides making the plays and all that, you need the football gods on your side. That's the bottom
Absolutely.
line, right? You need the football gods. Because if you don't
Yeah.
get the football gods, I don't care how good you are, that other team could beat you because the football gods are on their side.
I'm right there with you. I don't know what God the Jets are on right now. I don't know if it's Satan or the devil, but something's happening with them. I just can't believe it. I mean, this was the one year. I mean, there's been many years where I'm looking forward to it, but when Aaron Rodgers went out after 4 plays, I'm like, oh my God. I just, this is just the Jets. This is just can't be, but you
Yeah.
just can't figure it out. And then not
Nah,
to say it would have been any different right now with Aaron Rodgers because he could have been running for his life too. And,
right.
it's just not easy putting everything together, but there's a lot of,
And it, and
lot of
it's
issues.
and it's
I
tough.
wouldn't even want to be a coach.
Oh, well, listen. Nowadays, right now,
It's
with
hard.
all that sensitivity going on with these young kids. Oh well, he
I
said
mean,
this to
you got
me.
not only kids, but you're also dealing with young men, having a coaching staff that understands, having management you have to deal with. There's so many things that go into it. I could never even do that, but it just, it's just so hard to win in this league and to have it all together. I don't know how different teams have done it on a consistent basis, but at some point they're going to have some problems, and it's just so hard. It's just not that easy. It's not easy to win games
But
consistently.
Marvin, but you were a high school physical education teacher, and one of my guys that I work out with when we were working out in the city, CrossFit, he says, "Hey," on Instagram, he says, "That used to be my high school gym teacher." I'm like, "Really?" At Kings Park High School in Long Island.
Yep, I did that. Um, I've been teaching for about 25 years before I retired, and the last 16 were at Kings Park, and that is a huge difference with the kids in my life. And matter of fact, I just got inducted into this one another Hall of Fame high school. And matter of fact, John Elway is a member of it, and he was at the dinner. And I thought they were just joking around with some guy named Joe Elway. And one guy, because I didn't see him, I thought I would run into him or whatever, because I know him. I've done his golf tournaments in the past. And lo and behold, he was there, and they had him come and throw me a pass when I had to go up for my award and whatnot. But the thing is, two of my students moved out to LA. I've had their whole family, and I had the older sister and the younger daughter. They were both in LA. They met me, and we had dinner. And one of them's married with kids, and one's just got engaged. And I met her fiance, and it was just really nice. But I have kids just that I had in kindergarten. Like there's her name is Dasha Bradshaw. She wants to be a movie director, and her dad had an accident where an umbrella in the backyard, windy, and hit him in the eye, and
Oof.
he's blind in that eye. And she remembers me telling the story about my blindness, so she directed this little video of me speaking to the class and telling them I'm blind, and intertwined it with the story with her father and the accident and everything else. And then I call on her as a youngster in the classroom, but she wants to be this movie director, and she does all these things. And she's really good, and she's grown up. And some of these girls or guys I've had in kindergarten are grown women now, beautiful, and guys with kids. And I was, this is the funniest part. That's why I love teaching and the kids that I've grown up in, the relationships I had. I was at one of the games when we got introduced out on the field. This is Legends Weekend. And I'm walking out to see this mascot who has taken us out twice for these big dinners. And I've gotten to know him and his fiance. And I went to go say hi to him on the phone, and you couldn't hear, and I was just waiting where I'm going to be, and just to wave to him to let him know that I saw him. And they were actually calling me on the field, and I couldn't find him, and I finally located him. So as I'm walking there, I see this kid who opens up his shirt like Superman, and he's got 85. So I zoom in, take a picture of it, and it's the greatest picture. And I get back upstairs, not realizing it was one of my students from Kings Park, and a bunch of them had come to the game. So they came up to the suite, and I knew he was going to be there, but I didn't know it was him that I was taking a picture of. And I have so many stories of kids that I've taught even in the city that I had during high school, and they'll come back and say, "Hey, they knew me as Mr. Walker, their gym teacher." Most of them didn't even know I played football. Their parents knew, and that's what they would find out. There was a lot of times like, "Mr. Walker, you never told me you played for the Jets," and they wouldn't know. They just know me as their gym, just as a person. I didn't care about that stuff, but I have so many stories of kids that I've taught over the years, and they don't know. Even with my injuries, there's times where I mean, I felt bad, Eddie. Like my body was just breaking down, and I finally had to retire because of that. And but they don't know what value and just the spirit that when I would go in, that they did for me. And man, I remember when I got the Ring of Honor, the principal had them fix up the gym. Everybody wore jerseys that day in green and white, had it all fixed up for me, and I was just like floored. And I
Here's
just
that picture
enjoyed
of
being
you
with.
right here. Here's that picture of you
What's
at
that?
Ring of Honor. You see
Oh
that
yeah,
picture?
yeah. Hey, I remember it vividly. You know, Margasso and myself. And
2012 in
yeah,
October.
yeah. And so there are just so many good experiences, and the people who supported me during that time, and I had family and friends there, and God, the Jets did a wonderful job. I mean, they anybody that wanted to come to the game to support me, they got tickets for and everything else, and my whole family, and it was just a wonderful experience. But when I come back and I see the kids that I've had since kindergarten, and they're women, as a matter of fact, the kid that I'm talking about, he came to Miller's Ale House to see me because there's a meeting place in Deer Park, Long Island, and they have my jersey there, but it's a local spot, and I'll take pictures with everybody in front of the jersey and whatnot. But he ended up coming, and then as we were just, I had all kinds of friends there. We went outside because his mom had FaceTime to just say hello. But a lot of these kids I've had their parents, in high school, and then I've had their kids, from kindergarten up because the last 16 years I spent at an elementary school, and when I got transferred, I didn't know how that was going to be, and I was a little reluctant, but it was probably the best years of my life with those kids because they wanted to do stuff, and I just had just a wonderful, wonderful relationship, not only with the kids, but just the whole Kings Park family that I call it, and the people and the experience. But the kids were just wonderful, and it's an experience that I will never forget. But when you see kids that you talk and you go back there and they remember, and most of the time, there's so many kids even that came to the game. I had them as their teacher, but I don't know all their names. There's a couple that I do know. I knew this kid was going to be there, but all the kids that he brought with him, I had as their gym teacher, but I wouldn't have known all their names and stuff. And that's the problem I had. I'll have kids from Queens that say, "Hey, Mr. Walker, I had you in high school." I won't remember it, but you just had this influence and good effect on people, and that's all I ever cared about. Forget the football stuff, just the person, just being with them, just trying to help them the best you can.
Oh, well, listen, Wesley, you're unbelievable, man. I'm so happy that Marvin texted me like last week, says, listen, I got Wesley next to me. I'm giving you his info. He's going to be on your podcast. I was like, you bet your ass. Hell yeah. Give me him. And I'm so happy.
And I swear, you sound just like my friend Edwin Martinez. And I wasn't able to see him. He was busy, but I always try to get to see him. And he's a big Jet fan. He loves the Mets too and all that. But you sound just like him. I'm gonna have to get this broadcast to him and say, man, if I didn't know it was Eddie, this is you, bro. You sound
Does
just
he
like
look
him.
like me too?
Kind of favor, but just the voice. It's
Oh,
funny.
man. Thank
I
you.
should
Thank you.
take a picture of him. You have to hear his voice, and maybe
Wow.
you
All
can
right.
call in on your show one day. It's funny. It's funny. You sound just like him.
Wesley, listen, you changed lives. You're a great, great dad, a great grandfather, a great husband, man. Listen, it's really hard to find people like you nowadays, man.
Well,
You're
I
just
appreciate
all
my ex.
around.
My ex-wife probably wouldn't say that, but but
Oh, listen, exes are
I'm
exes, but you know what? You got a great
I'm just
wife right
joking with
now.
that.
Yeah, I know, I
I'm
know.
just joking.
And I see how you are with your grandkids, and I'm like, I never had a father. He left me when I was 4. I don't know where he's at, and I don't care because I'm not playing that victim card. It's like
No,
I'm a
do you
man.
think that affected you? Though? Do you think that affected you? Because I hear that a lot when you don't have parents. Because I lost my father at 40 and I was only 17. But do you think that affected you in a big way,
No, I'll
losing
tell
at
you.
4?
As far as at 4 years old, what do you know? Now, I think if
Yeah,
he
yeah,
left me at 12, I'm like, yo, what's up, Dad? What'd what
yeah,
I do? But my mom raised me, I grew up in the projects in Canarsie, Brooklyn, My mom said,
yeah,
listen, Eddie, right now we can't afford anything, but it's gonna get better. Just believe in mommy. You know what I mean? Stay in school. Don't do any stupid shit. And I never did drugs in my life. I hardly drank.
yeah,
It just to me, I get high off life, off people.
yeah,
Shooting the shit, playing sports. That was my lifestyle. My first
yeah,
job was at 12 years old as a paper boy. Then I'm at a catering hall. I
yeah,
lied to them that I was 17, 18. I was a bartender at this gangster spot in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? I love
yeah.
working. And I was making $200-$300 a night on a Friday night, Saturday night, giving that money to my mom and
Good money
keep.
back then too for you too, being a youngster. That's good money.
Yeah, exactly. So you know what it is? It's like it's all in the head, man. If you just have good guidance. Look, my mom was great. She had to work. She trusted me. I would say, Mom, I'm going to play. I never did bad things. And if there were friends that offered, hey, let's do this, let's do that, I'm like, nah, guys, I'm sorry, I'm out. I was strong enough back then.
Yeah, and
And,
that's one thing parents really worried about, and I know my parents trusted me, and
mhm,
because I had good friends and I had the ones on the bad side, but I was
right.
loyal to either one,
Yeah.
and just didn't want me to be in a situation where somebody's doing the wrong thing and you're doing the right thing, but you're just at the wrong place with them, and you go down there with them. That's what they always worried about, and I always knew that. But
Well, all it takes
by the
is
grace of God, like I said,
Yeah, all it takes
Yeah,
is
one
10
thing. One.
seconds, 10 seconds to make an executive decision that could ruin you the rest of your life. I want to be that stat.
Yep.
I don't want to
Yeah.
be that
And
stat.
I thank God that didn't happen. It could have, but it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
So,
And you know
and
what?
but if
And
I had
since
to,
you're a lefty like me, and I also used to be a high school gym teacher for 5 years.
okay, I
Yeah. Yeah.
loved it. I loved a bit of it. I don't know. Some people you always make it fun and that you become a gym teacher if you can't do anything. But I loved it. And my premise was to work with student athletes because I started out in special ed, and I remember being at
Wow,
Forest
that's
Hills High
tough.
School.
Where?
I was at
Forest
Forest
Hills?
Hills High School,
That's where I
and
live.
I was substituting and for this woman, and then she never showed back up. So I took it for the rest of the year and a couple years there, and they just liked me. But when I got my all my certifications in place, I got a job like that in Kings Park. Happened to be they really wanted me bad. They came up in salary, which they don't normally do. And I actually been there, but it was the best decision I ever made. But I just love forget the administration and the politics and the curriculum. I just like being with the kids, and
Right.
and it's no different like now with my family and kids. I have this little 15-month-old girl I'm with every day, and she just brings joy to my heart. And I just hope she stays that way because I go to my kids' house sometimes, and man, they're a bear to be with, and it's time to go home. But I haven't been this way with this one here. Hope she stays away. I don't know what would happen if I have to take care of this new baby that's coming too. But I'm not getting any younger, and I'm not so sure how much I'm going to be able to pick up my little children and be with them. So I'm going to try to enjoy it as much as I can.
Absolutely. Listen, Wesley, don't go anywhere. We're going to end this. I just need a couple of favors, okay? This is Wesley Walker. As you can see, his biography, what he's doing. Great man. Great everything. Here we go.
Hi, this is Wesley Walker, former All-Pro wide receiver for the New York Jets. I would like you to at least take a look at Eddie Mata's YouTube channel and all his social media platforms. He's awesome. I had a great interview with him, and I will be following him for the rest of my life. Check him out.